Good afternoon, everyone. Very excited to be as part of this amazing event around retail, brands, channels. Been a part of some exciting discussions since morning. My name is Madhur Singhal. I'm a managing partner at Praxis Global Alliance. We're a specialized management consulting firm. We track consumer trends. We work with D2C brands. We work with smaller to mid-sized brands, taking them omni-channel. Online ones going offline ones going to online. So we came out with this report as a part of this event, and I'm going to talk about just a few snippets around, since COVID, we've seen the consumer behavior and retail behavior really change dramatically. And so this is a compendium, and that report is there for everybody's review, but it's meant to be a compendium of how sort of consumer behavior has changed. Just very quickly, of course, to this audience, which already sort of understands what retail and consumers, so we look at retail in India is complicated. We're just about, talking about grocery retail, separate supermarkets, hypermarkets, which are not really fully developed in the country. A lot of specialty retail, organized MBOs, local modern trade. Like we're operating in a pretty complex retail landscape, right? No prizes for getting. Can somebody take off this sticky from the slide? Yeah. So overall, India retail at consumer spending is around $840 billion. If you look at retailers, of course, retailers constitute the biggest chunk. But then you have jewelry retailers, apparel retailers, other sort of, apparel, electronics retailers, health and beauty, etc. And then e-commerce, of course, with sort of $65 billion of overall GMV on consumer spend values. Now, interestingly, irrespective of the retail format we look at, the organized retail is on a rise, right? You're seeing consumers, even if they're not buying online, they're searching online, they're discovering products and brands online, and grocery, apparel, footwear, jewelry, whichever chart you look at, the overall organized market growth is growing. And the overall, if you look at the revenue growth of some of the top listed players, which basically means older brands, that's been choppy. And that's why, this report is not just about everything being rosy and hunky-dory, but really a lot of underlying turbulence in this space. We look at several retail categories: supermarkets, apparel, QSRs, jewelry and luxury, footwear, consumer electronics. We are seeing slowdown in growth over the last 4 or 5 quarters, right? There has been some dent to consumer confidence, some dent to consumer spending. Now, are we worried about it? Actually, no, because post-COVID, we also saw a substantial uptick. The consumer credit is on a rise, and so this trend was sort of expected, to say the least. Now, the paper that we published really covers 8 trends that are reshaping retail. I'm not going to go through all the trends, but we'll very quickly touch upon them just so that you understand what we've covered in the report that is otherwise available. And it has a lot more details, lot more data, lot more category data, channel data, etc. And of course, we are open to sort of talking about it and discussing this more. Now, 8 trends that are truly reshaping retail. I think one is the whole polarization in consumer demand, right, which is driving a very K-shaped growth. We're seeing mass to grow rapidly. Mass retail, mass products, mass price products. We saw a lot of euphoria around a mass premium because of D2C, but that mass premium has been, I would say, a bit short-lived, or at least starting to slow down growth levels that we are used to. But the luxury and the mass is really where the growth is growing unabated. Mass is where we are seeing a lot more shift from unbranded or unorganized to branded and organized. Luxury is, again, we are seeing a ton of growth. Second is sort of shift in consumer buying patterns. Now, consumers are a lot more involved. Women are a lot more involved. Children are a lot more involved, right? So the involvement levels in purchase decisions, be it home and building materials, be it apparel, be it furnishings, be it consumer services, be it getting a haircut, right? Consumers of all kinds are now a lot more involved. And you'll see that in our report. In the US, 61% of buying decisions are already taken as a family and not as individuals. And it's very funny to see that, because on one hand, we are seeing society to have become a lot more individual centric, and people to be rediscovering their individual self, self-assurance, self-confidence, etc. But the decision making on buying key products is becoming a lot more together, collective. Third is integration of technology. I will not talk about it. The previous panel spoke about this a little bit, but a lot of smart tech, taking over the entire value chain. Focus on sustainability. I'll talk quickly about it. Experience-driven retail, right? Retail spaces. Look, retail has proliferated, but the consumer has not. In fact, consumer expectations to be served by a brand or by a channel are the same. They become more evolved, right? When I go to a store, consumers expect that you know that I am a loyal customer of your brand. I might have placed 2 orders on e-commerce, right? But they expect to be treated a certain way. Consumers are no longer ready to hear that a shoe size is not available. What they want to hear is, you like this shoe, this is your size, it's going to be at your home by the time you've exited the mall, right? Because they are used to a certain degree of speed, velocity, gratification. We'll talk about that a little bit. Rise in brand licensing and merchandising. We're seeing a lot more role of content and commerce to be sort of almost collaborating and colliding, right? Lot of content licensing, lot of merchandising, lot of responding to real life events, responding to issues that matter, responding to sort of the current trends and the current needs, and that has pretty deep ramification on the supply chains and how we sort of source and how we do the assortments. Increasing need for brand creation through differentiated models. We'll talk a bit about it, especially as consumers becoming more, at one hand, they are becoming loyal to brands they care about. On the other hand, brand proliferation is at its peak, because the brands, consumers are sort of being hit with information and content, and they're discovering new brands online, on social media and whatnot. And so they want to experience brands, and they want to understand what these different brands and products stand for. And finally, loyalty. Most retailers and most brands, who are our clients, we speak about loyalty. And I don't know, one of the things we speak about is loyalty alive or dead? Is loyalty relevant or irrelevant? One of the things that we are seeing what is more effective with brands and channels is that it's become more important to get into the consideration set of the customer rather than making a customer super loyal and expecting them to be buying your products over and over again, right? Being in the consideration set is actually, according to us, the new definition of loyalty. Staying relevant with the consumer and staying relevant when they want to make a purchase and being available to them when they want to make a purchase, is what you can control, what we can control, right? Whether they will buy you or not, is something that's almost becoming more and more uncontrollable, especially with sort of single view of the customer, etc., not being there. So I spoke a little bit, there's some data, if we talk about smartphones, we talk about vehicles, we talk about apparel, we are seeing premium segments to be growing faster. We are seeing mid segments to be growing at a moderate pace, unless it's sort of apparel, which is a more frequent purchase. And then we're seeing the mass also in some cases. Now this data is a little tricky because of rural incomes being up and down, but by and large mass brands are gaining share, especially in organized channels. I spoke about purchase decisions being more collective, more implications of gender roles on channel, number of family members in India, who are now included in decision making. 45% of Indian families make, home furnishing decisions together now, right, which was not the case. And if you look at US, right, 43% of something like a flooring in the house, right, which was a very male dominated B2B like purchase. 43% of those decisions are being made by the male and the female together in the family. Right. Now, this is a busy slide. I'm not going to talk about all of that. I think some of that was already mentioned in a few sessions. But smart tech, smart retail, and tech is pervading the entire value chain. product design, manufacturing, logistics, store ops, e-commerce management or omni-commerce management should we say, customer experience after sale. Sustainability, right? We've seen a lot of sustainability initiatives that are becoming very real. So sustainable sourcing, using recycled materials, using materials that are sustainable. Consumers care about sustainability. Consumers are ready to pay 10 to 15% premiums already in India for sustainable products. Eco-friendly packaging. Consumers do not want to waste packaging, right? A lot of that, if you look at the US, 95% of air pillows are now replaced with paper fillers already, right? So this is a trend. Sustainability is not a choice. It's become mandatory now. Sustainable product materials, refill and reuse systems, a lot of refill stations. Why would you want to sell, a bottle of shampoo for like 450 rupees if you can, offer refill packs that are cheaper, that are more sustainable, that are reusable, reduced energy use and emissions, and then sustainable production. Again, not talking about all of that, in detail, but a lot of the detail is available in the report that we come out with. A lot of seamless experiences. You look at the Zara concept store in Bangalore, right? Self-checkout, smart fitting. Some of that is almost becoming hygiene, in countries like Singapore, in the US, in Europe. Pottery Barn opened its flagship in Delhi and Bombay. Puma opened its flagship in Bangalore. Now these flagship stores are nothing new. We've been doing that for 20 years now, right? But it's become more and more important to communicate the brand message to the consumers, especially as the control on the channel is getting lost, especially as consumers are exercising more discretion, right, in discovery. And so what does the brand stand for? It's become very, very important. And even categories, again, building materials like hindware, which will never have a store. Always go to a multi-branded store in a wholesale-like market, and even in Delhi and Mumbai, today, has become a consumer product, as we speak. Also, the market for licensed merchandise and services is growing. We think it will grow more rapidly, especially as organized channels grow, especially as social media influence grows, etc., etc. And subscription models. Now, India has traditionally not done a lot of subscription, right? US, some of the developed economies, already have a lot, but we have seen examples like Country Delight, which is already more than a 1,300 crore brand. We've seen Live Pure, which is basically offering water as a service, right? Cove is an example from a home appliance perspective, which is already doing this a lot, in the US, right? So subscription models are poised to also enter, especially in repeat buying categories. If you see diaper consumption in India, diaper purchase in India, the amount of diaper purchase that happens on Subscribe and Save on Amazon, or First Cry, is actually growing quite rapidly. We spoke about loyalty, right? Now, a lot of retailers, as the previous panel, we spoke about leveraging AI, AR. We've spoken a lot about personalization and hyper-personalization. Easier said than done, because the consumer is actually now on multiple channels. It is not easy to personalize. We don't even know who's buying, who's using, who's login. Very difficult to personalize, very easy to say we will personalize. And so the personalization means we need to collect more and more data. We need to collect data, using things like try-ons. We want to do product visualizations. We want to, do analysis around what parts of the product, what attributes, what kind of content is the customer consuming. So personalization has moved beyond just the demographics of the customer. Personalization has moved to saying, what's the buying behavior? What kind of content do I put? What kind of offers and schemes do I portray? Right? What kind of personalized marketing works? Where are the click-through rates higher versus others? E-commerce personalization, what to show on the front page to a particular customer, right? And there are substantial trade-offs here. This is not easy, right? There are trade-offs, there are costs. You can't manage inventory basis personalization. It's the chicken and egg sort of continues. But, large retailers and large brands need to start biting this bullet sooner than later. Otherwise, there would be some degree of disruption. I will skip this one. Now, so we are overall, like I spoke out very quickly at 15 minutes, so spoke about the 8 trends. The report is already there. It covers these 8 trends. It covers a lot of data around the retail ecosystem in India, around the polarization, around technology. And we are, of course, my contacts are there, and our contacts are there. So we'll be very happy to continue and further this conversation. But thank you so much for providing this opportunity.